All right, so I want to thank everyone for joining us here today, and we have a great list. We first have many groups. We have Minority Veterans of America, we have the National Women's Law Center, we have the Center for Reproductive Rights, we have Protect Our Defenders, we have Service Women's Action Network, the Pink Berets, Transgender American Veterans Association, and NARAL. And great members, Tammy Baldwin, who will MC this after I speak, Senators Murray, Duckworth, Durbin, Klobuchar, Warren, Hirono, Blumenthal, Cantwell, and many, many others who wanted to be here and are with us in spirit and strength. So, first, I want to thank this great group and so many members on this list, so many group members on this list for their tireless work on an issue critical to thousands throughout the country. And I also want to thank our senators. Our Senate caucus has been so strong on this issue because we need to be, because America's women are depending on us. When health and safety of our country is at risk, we all know it's up to veterans to step up to protect us. They risk their lives for us. They're always there for us. And now, when these same veterans have their health care attacked, Senate Democrats are stepping up to protect their rights. Today, Senator Tuberville from Alabama will push legislation that would take away reproductive care for hundreds of thousands of veterans and their families. That's right, the hard right. The hard right. Boo, hard right. The hard right is telling our veterans that they'll be treated as second-class citizens, and we say no way, no way, no way. Despite everything our veterans have given to our country, it's outrageous. It's wrong, it's dangerous, and it ain't gonna happen. Not as long as I'm leader. We, together, will fight for our veterans and make sure the Senate rejects this anti-choice legislation. Here's the bottom line. They protect our freedom. We should protect their freedom of choice. Plain and simple. Now, I'm not the only one on the right side of this. I'm joined by millions of Americans across the country who support veterans' right to choose, who prioritize health care over politics. This alone is an affront to our brave veterans and service members. But it's even made worse. If Tuberville could make such an awful thing even worse, he did. Because he's threatening our national security by blocking over 180 military promotions, something Secretary Austin even warned was so wildly dangerous. Tuberville's stunt is kneecapping our military readiness in critical areas across the globe. All this to prevent Americans who serve their country from accessing medical care and putting the power of choice instead in the hands of politicians. It's disappointing. So disappointing that our colleagues on the other side of the aisle haven't yet called out Senator Tuberville for his reckless stunt. Their silence is deafening. A few have, but very, very few. I thank those who've raised their voices, but we need more because the silence is deafening. And I ask Republicans, especially those that claim to be great supporters of the military and their families, to denounce the harm the senator from Alabama is causing to both our military in readiness and, as I said, to hundreds of thousands of women veterans who he's taking away their rights.
Shame!
Shame is right. This is a hard right agenda. Eliminate the right to choose at all costs, even at the cost of our national defense. So, to our nation's finest, the great veterans who have served us, my promise as Majority Leader, you protect us, and now Senate Democrats will protect you. We will win this fight. Okay. So now I'm going to turn it over to Tammy Baldwin, who is our MC.
Great.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, everybody. It'll win. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Well done.
Thank you. Okay, bye, everybody.
And before I make my own remarks, I want to turn the podium over to a veteran who's with the Minority Veterans of America, Lindsay Church.
Ooh, big crowd. Good afternoon. I'm Lindsay Church, Executive Director and co-founder of Minority Veterans of America. We fight for equity, justice, and the rights of minority and underrepresented service members around the country and world. Thank you for joining us. A special thank you to the senators who are here with us today and always. The Supreme Court's decision to overturn Roe v. Wade has already had devastating impacts on those who wear the uniform of the United States of America. Abortion is now illegal and inaccessible in at least 12 states, and more states are moving to ban and restrict abortion. Anti-abortion extremists will stop at nothing to eliminate our fundamental rights. And today they've made that clear. Veterans are not safe from their agenda. Abortion bans harm the health and safety of our military and veteran communities and threaten readiness and morale. Everyone, including service members and veterans and our loved ones, deserve access to abortion no matter where we live. 2 years ago, my wife and I started our family planning journey. We worked with a fertility clinic, these are everywhere. We worked with a fertility clinic and developed a care plan, most of which we paid for out of pocket. In April, we attempted IUI and for the first time. While waiting to learn if my wife, Jess, was pregnant, the draft Supreme Court decision in the Dobbs v. Jackson case was leaked. 4 days later, we learned Jess was pregnant and celebrated the happiest and scariest moment of our lives. The decision in Dobbs was delivered on June 24th. 2 weeks later, we learned during a routine ultrasound our child's abdomen was distended to the point of concern. It took 33 days and into Jess's 16th week to get the tests we needed to understand that our child had a fetal bladder deformity and couldn't produce amniotic fluid. Through it all, it felt like we were racing against the clock. We knew we had a deadline to make the decision, or we may be forced to leave the state to get an abortion. The moral injury of having served a country to protect a constitution that no longer protected my family when we need it most has been absolutely devastating. We made the painful but most compassionate decision for the child we love so much to end the pregnancy. We wanted our baby more than anything, but couldn't imagine a life where all they knew was suffering. I was born with a severe genetic deformity, and I couldn't imagine this life for them. When we finally made it to the abortion clinic, just days after I had been sleeping on these steps to fight for the passage of the PACT Act, we learned our baby had no heartbeat and had passed 3 days prior. The procedure for a second trimester miscarriage is the same as it is for an abortion. The only thing that changes is the urgency for care. Just access care not through Champ VA or TRICARE, which she qualifies for, but through a community-based clinic in Richmond, Virginia. She accessed care because state insurance covered the procedure, we had non-VA providers, and we live in a state that didn't restrict access. VA's Reproductive Health Services rule allows veterans, family members, and caretakers to access abortion counseling and abortion care in the cases of rape, incest, and when the pregnancy threatens the life or health of the patient. This policy will protect lives. They'll protect the lives of veterans and family members across the country. Were it in place 1 month earlier, my family could have turned to VA for care. For the policy to serve the veterans who are most likely to need access to care and least likely to have it, including racial and ethnic minorities and those that live in poverty, it's imperative that we protect these changes at VA. Now is the time for lawmakers to fight for our rights, not to shame or stigmatize us for our healthcare decisions. I'm thankful for the champions here with me today who advocate for veterans and our freedom to control our own bodies, lives, and future. That's a future we must never stop fighting for. Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you so much for your powerful words, your advocacy, and certainly for your service. As we all know, after a decades-long concerted effort, The hard right finally got their way and overturned a nearly 50-year precedent, stripping away a woman's constitutional right to an abortion, leaving many women with fewer rights than their mothers and their grandmothers. In my home state of Wisconsin, women right now are living under an 1849 criminal abortion ban, leaving them without the rights and freedom to control their own bodies, their futures, and their families. You didn't hear me wrong. It passed in 1849 in my state. Wisconsinites are not alone. Unfortunately, as across the country, 14 states have already implemented near total abortion bans. To put it simply, Americans are not having it. They have shown up at the ballot box, marched in rallies, written letters, made phone calls, you name it, to say loudly and clearly that they want their rights and freedoms back. But despite what Americans demand, these hard-right Republicans continue their crusade to chip away at the reproductive rights and freedoms that women still have left. And now, these Republicans have targeted our veterans. They are looking to deny comprehensive health care for people who put their lives on the line to defend our country. Veterans and their families have sacrificed so much to serve our country, and we have a commitment to do right by those who served us. We owe it to them to ensure that they have access to comprehensive health care, and that includes abortion care. So here's my message to those hard-right Republicans: leave our veterans alone. The incredibly personal decision of whether and when to have a family is just that, personal. It's a decision that shouldn't be made by judges, by politicians, or by the government. That's what the vast majority of Americans want. And that is what we are all gathered here fighting for. I will be proudly voting against today's misguided measure to deny our veterans the health care they deserve. And it's time for those hard-right Republicans to stop attacking women's basic rights. And with that, I want to turn the podium over to our champion, to Senator Patty Murray.
Well, thank you to Senator Baldwin and to everybody who's gathered here today. Look, if one thing's clear, it's that Republicans will try to force women in this country to stay pregnant no matter what they want, no matter their circumstances, no matter where they live. So you know what? We are here again. And as we wait for the Supreme Court to give us a ruling on a truly terrifying lawsuit from Texas that has no basis in science or in facts, but would restrict access to safe medication abortion everywhere in America, including states like mine, while also taking a wrecking ball at FDA's authority to approve all kinds of drugs from insulin to chemotherapy, here we are again, forced to block another Republican bill to control women's bodies. And this one should infuriate Americans everywhere, because this bill tells women veterans, no, you can't get abortion care if your life is in danger. It tells women veterans, no, if you've suffered something as traumatic as rape or incest, we will not let you get abortion care. It really is as simple as that. Republicans are outraged that VA is providing abortion care to veterans in those deeply serious instances. The Biden administration has taken steps to make sure women who have served our country in uniform can get the basic reproductive care they need when their health is at risk or in cases of rape or incest. And now Republicans want to overturn that policy and force women to stay pregnant. That is what we are talking about. Women veterans have risked their lives for this country, and they're now being told by Republicans, if you need abortion care to save your life, tough. That is unthinkably cruel. I've served on the Veterans Affairs Committee for a very long time. I was, in fact, the first woman to sit on that committee and the first woman to chair that committee. When I first came to the Senate, I asked specifically to be on that committee because my dad was a veteran. And I grew up with a deep respect for the sacrifices that our veterans make. And I take my responsibility to be a voice for our Washington State veterans very seriously. So my message to my colleagues ahead of this vote today, vote for this bill, but if you do, you are telling Americans everywhere in this country that the Republican Party unequivocally wants to force women veterans to stay pregnant even when their life is at risk or in the case of rape or incest. That is heinous. We will not stand for it. We are fighting back. We will not let anyone forget. So with that, I'm very proud to recognize my great friend Tammy Duckworth, a veteran herself, to come to the podium. Tammy.
Thank you, Washington. I'm good. I'm good. Well, thank you everyone for being here. You know, I woke up this morning wondering when exactly was the moment that Republicans in the Senate no longer believe that I had the right to bodily autonomy. Because here's what I know. This country and those Republicans were certainly all right with me making the choice to use my body as I saw fit when I signed up to fight wars on this country's behalf. They were just fine for me to decide to use my arms and legs to fly a Black Hawk helicopter into combat. And no one minded, and in fact, honored me when I lost those limbs in defense of this great nation. So I was competent to make those decisions about how I was going to use my body. So my question is, when do the folks arguing anti-choice positions, arguing that we should not allow veterans reproductive health care, when did they think I lost the competence to make decisions about my uterus that they thought I had about using my arms and legs? When did they think that American women no longer have the basic human right to call our own shots about our bodies, about our health, about our lives? Here's the truth. Our military women often move every 2 years for their service, and they end up in places that they did not choose to be assigned in a state that has very, very restrictive reproductive rights laws. And many of them, when they retire, they stay in those communities because they choose to continue to serve this great nation after having served in uniform in civilian roles with the same military on the same basis where they served in uniform. And now Republicans want them to give up their own rights to bodily autonomy as a result of serving this country. The VA made the right decision here, and I will do everything in my power to defend it. That's why I and several of my colleagues here introduced the EACH Act last month to restore abortion care coverage for every person who receives health care or health insurance through the federal government, including veterans. And I urge my colleagues to block any and all Republican attempts to roll it back. Because everyone deserves the peace of mind that comes with knowing they can access the care that is basic and fundamental to their well-being, like the ability to get a medical procedure that will save your life. We know that Republicans won't stop today with this vote. Right now, they're in court trying to get a drug that has been approved by the FDA for over 20 years and safely used off of shelves. And here in Congress, Senator Graham introduced a nationwide abortion ban. So today, the least we can do is to protect veterans' access to the reproductive care they need, when they need it, and wherever they need it. And with that, I will hand it over to Senator Durbin.
I object to following Tammy Duckworth. There's no better voice on this issue, not only in Congress, but in this country. You're a hero to us, Tammy. Thank you for your service to America. We feel pretty good about it, too. And I would just make it very brief. Patty Murray said it as clearly as anyone could. If we trust veterans to serve our nation and risk their lives in doing that, how can we say to those same veterans, we will not stand by you when you make critical decisions about a procedure that can literally save your life or give you some comfort or refuge after a rape or incest? It is so basic and fundamental. And to think that we have to face this from a senator from from Alabama, who is holding up military promotions all across the military to make his point. If there was ever disrespect to the men and women serving in the military, and men and women who have served and are now in our Veterans Administration, this is a clear illustration. The fight is just beginning. We're going to see one chapter of it today. I hope it ends well. I believe it will. But we're going to have to stand together because the Republicans won't quit at state level, at federal level, across the board. And we can't stop either. We have a battle to win. Thank you all.
I'm not sure. Thank you.
That's the choice you're making.
Aloha, everybody. I'm glad. I'm glad to stand here with my colleagues because this is yet another example of the battles we thought we had won don't stay won, so eternal vigilance is required of all of us. So MAGA Republicans are working to strip the veterans of the freedoms that they fought for and that they sacrificed for. None better said than Tammy and Lindsay. Thank you so much, Lindsay. So the Supreme Court's disastrous Dobbs decision eliminated reproductive rights for almost 300,000 women veterans, many of whom live in states where abortion is illegal. And this is why some of us wrote a letter to the VA to protect veterans and to provide access to abortion care. And they did so, not to the extent we would like, but one must start somewhere. So the VA will provide abortion care in the cases of rape, incest, or to save the life of the mother. An important step that the VA took. So now Republicans want to overturn this common sense rule because they have such an obsession. That is the right word, obsession, with wanting to control and have power over our lives and to promote a nationwide abortion ban. If they overturn this rule, VA wouldn't be able to provide access to abortion care, as I said, even to save the life of the pregnant person. They're so obsessed with banning abortion that they would rather let veterans die. That's right. They would rather let veterans die than allow them this care, even in cases of rape, incest, or to save her life. The Republicans' obsessions with having power and control over our bodies has resulted in, as mentioned, Senator Tuberville blocking military promotions. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of promotions. It's also led to judge shopping, leading to the judge in Texas imposing basically a nationwide ban on the use of mifepristone. This is a judge who said pregnancy is a normal human condition, as though those of us who are in childbearing years should just be pregnant because that is a normal condition. As one of my friends says, what is that? That is bananas. Then their obsession with wanting to impose a nationwide abortion ban. So our veterans and all Americans should not have to pay the price of the Republicans' obsession. And that's why Senate Democrats will stand together to vote against this effort today to do away with the common sense rule that the VA adopted to protect veterans. And listen, this is in the cases of rape, incest, or to save the life of the person. Talk about common sense. So we will keep on fighting to make sure that not just this effort, but all their other efforts of the hard right, MAGA Republicans, fails on behalf of all Americans. Mahalo.
Sandra. Thanks, everyone. I'm Richard Blumenthal from Connecticut. Really, really proud to stand with brave, strong women veterans. Thank you for your service, and advocates. Thanks for all you're doing.
Thank you for my service when you want to regulate my cervix.
And the reason why we have these kinds of brave, strong women serving in our military, the reason why we have the greatest military in the world is because we keep our word to them. We have their back on the back end. They don't have to guess whether or not the VA will provide their health care just because a senator decides on the basis of his personal ideology, his radical agenda, his far-right views, that he wants to decide what they can do with their bodies. That principle applies to men and women. Greatest military in the world because we keep our word. Senator Tuberville is trying to break the nation's word to our veterans that we will have their back in health care. Now, Senator Tuberville is entitled to his beliefs, and he's entitled to articulate his beliefs. Those rights are guaranteed to him under the Constitution. That's the Constitution that these women and a lot of other women and men who served in the military have helped to protect. And those rights exist because of our veterans. We should not curtail veterans' rights, undercut their constitutional protection just because of Senator Tuberville's or any other senator's personal ideology. And finally, let me just say, more and more women are joining our military. More and more women are commanding men and women, deciding what they will do with their bodies on the battlefield. If we entrust them with those decisions, we should trust women to make decisions about their own health care. It's vital. I trust women to make decisions. I do not trust Senator Tuberville or any other politician or judges to make health care decisions for women. Those rights are guaranteed to women and men, and I am proud to stand shoulder to shoulder with women veterans across this great nation in defending that right. Proud to introduce now Senator Cantwell.
Thank you, Senator Blumenthal, and thank you to Senator Baldwin for convening this and for all the women and all the veterans that are here today. We're here today, as the sign said earlier, we're not second-class citizens, and certainly our veterans deserve the access to health care from our VA system. The VA, in a very sensible rule, says that no veteran or their eligible family member can be denied an abortion care or be forced to stay pregnant when their health is at risk in the case of rape or incest. Now, this is such an important policy. In the state of Washington, there are over 22,000 women veterans of reproductive age and more than 300,000 women of reproductive age who receive health care from our VA in the country. So if the Republicans were successful, bans like this would prevent them from getting the safe care that they deserve and need. It's hard to believe that Republicans would be so heartless to the people who put their lives on the line to defend our nation, to defend our freedoms, that they would be as cruel to force a woman who has been raped to take a fetus to term, denying her the chance to even talk to a doctor about her options for care. We need to be successful today. We need the VA to keep this rule, and we need to keep moving forward in making sure that we give women full reproductive rights and access to the health care they deserve in our nation. Thank you very much.
And I just want to thank everyone for attending, for speaking out, for standing up, for keeping up with this fight. So thank you all, and we're going to have the vote later. We're going to do it. We're going to do it.
Thank you all.